Welcome to The Purpose Effect, the space where we get honest, we get intentional, and we get aligned with the life God designed for us. I am Alesha, your host on Mondays, and my friend David hosts on Wednesdays, and on Fridays we do it together. Our mission is simple: to help you stop floating through life and start living with purpose, clarity, and action. Okay, today on Friday, we're bringing you something a little different. Our schedules did not align for us to do one together, so I am going to share with you a very special one that I did with my team on what we call Rise and Thrives on Friday mornings. And I will actually be sharing, it's a 3-week series. So today you get to experience the first one of the growth shift. It's time to rise into who you are becoming. And this week I really focused on emotional avoidance. So I hope that you will take something away from this. I dig deep and I pull out all the punches. So be ready for this episode of The Purpose Effect. Okay, guys. I am excited to be here with you guys. I'm excited to dig deep on some things and really help you guys to have some massive breakthroughs. So the next 3 weeks, I actually am going to be doing a little mini training series here on Rise and Thrive. And it's called The Growth Shift. And so the tagline is, it's time to rise into who you're becoming. And one of the things that I have just been really working on over the last few years myself is digging deep, learning how to live with purpose and intention and all that. But in order to do that, in order to really walk it out, there's some foundational things that we need to be working on to really get the momentum going. That's what I want to focus on here. And like I said, join me in on this for especially the next 3 weeks. What I love in this. Okay, so this is part of the growth stuff that God is showing me. I don't always like to prepare. I like to go off the cuff, right? Like most mornings when I hop on here on Fridays, I share with you what God's been working in me, but it's not really planned, which maybe I shouldn't be sharing that. But a lot of it's, hey, God, you just take the wheel and just share whatever you want to share. Well, here's the kicker. God is working in me saying, okay, I want you to start planning a little bit more. I want you to be prepared a little bit more. And that's what I love, is that God is always wanting to work in us and grow us. It's not that God's saying, Alesha, I don't like your flexibility. I don't like how you just run with things and you can just go. I want to work on this area because this is an area I want you to grow in. This is an area I want you to begin to build. And when you guys, as we work through these next 3 weeks, I want you to keep that in the back of your mind, that what are areas that you can be working on that maybe you want to naturally avoid, but God is saying, I want you to lean into it. I want you to work on it. And again, it's not oh my goodness, like you're not doing it well. It's, how can I help you to be better? How can I help you to really step in to what God is asking, to what God's calling you to? In order to do that, sometimes you got to shift, right? So that's where God is really working on me, is, Alesha, I need you to do some shifting, and I need you to work in you. And so that's what we're going to be doing these next 3 weeks. And so let's get started, because, this is a fun one this week. We're really going to be talking about emotional avoidance. Now, when you think of emotional avoidance, I think there will probably be a lot of different things that will come to your mind, but I want to dig into it. I want to give you some tools to walk through it. And I'll also share some examples of how being intentional and walking through it and being purposeful can actually bring so much amazing change to your life. It can literally begin to shift areas in your life that you didn't even know was possible, because you are digging into something that you have been avoiding. Are you guys ready? Are you guys ready for this? It is very powerful. Okay. If growth were easy, you would already be living in the next level, right? And here's the thing, you guys, when we're here, especially here in this company, we love to grow, right? That's one of our big things, is growth. How many of you have recognized it is not easy? It is actually, sometimes it's really painful. But as you begin to do it and you begin to shift and you begin to recognize it, answer this and you can even put it in the chat. The more you do it, the more intentional you become. Is it getting somewhat easier? Is it getting a little bit easier? And I would say yes, because you begin to recognize that the shifting and the reward for it outweighs the staying where you're at. You begin to recognize that the discomfort that you have been living in, that what you've been living in is way more uncomfortable than where you're moving to. You begin to see that you value the growth more than staying stagnant. And so that's what I'm really hoping, that we all begin to really live our lives with such intention of growth and leaning in and not avoiding. Avoidance is a form of self-protection. Anybody feel that way? I'm just going to avoid because I want to protect myself. I don't want to feel this. But here's what I will tell you is the more you grow, you'll begin to realize that avoidance, it's not lazy. It's a level of self-protection. When you begin to see that, when you begin to recognize that, now you get to move forward even more. Now you begin to go, oh, okay, here's my motive behind it. So what we're doing today is we are stripping away some layers. What we thought were, I'm avoiding things and I don't want to walk through this because it's uncomfortable. We're actually going to strip it further back. And if any of you guys if you ever hop on the little coaching call with me, I try to always ask more questions. I try to take it layers deep, like let's go deeper. Let's go deeper. What happens with avoidance is we like to just stay at the surface level and we like to think, oh, I'm making some shifts. I'm doing some stuff. Oh, I posted a reel and that was a long time. I want us to, in this today, to begin to actually take it layers deeper than that, instead of just leaning into the discomfort of posting a reel because, you know what? I didn't want to share like what I'm working on and it was just really uncomfortable. Why is it uncomfortable? What in you is holding you back from moving forward? What in you makes you think that you are not worthy of people watching you and connecting with you? What part of you makes you think that you bring no value? And so what we're doing is we're taking it and we're going, let's get deeper in, because when the deeper we go, guess what? The more growth you get to experience. So an example would be, last weekend, I spent quite a bit of time trimming our apple trees. So when we bought this property last year, it came with 13 apple trees and a pear tree. And gosh, it sounds like I'm going to start singing like a Christmas carol or something with the pear tree. But it has, so with the trees, one of the things that my husband and I looked into is the fact that we really needed to prune them. Like some of them were in pretty rough shape and we needed to go in, take off some branches. Now, yeah, do I have a partridge? I don't know. I didn't find one in there. So maybe there is no partridge in the pear tree. But so when we begin to research how to prune these apple trees, one of the things that we found was it needed to be done in the dead of winter. That the colder, the better, which I thought was so interesting because normally, like when I prune my rose bushes or whatever, I do it in springtime or fall time. Like you hear that for a lot of, but apple trees and fruit trees, it's really good to do it in the dead of winter when it's really cold. And why is that? It's because the growth is not focused on the branches, the leaves, and the fruit. It's focused on the trunk and the base of the tree. So I want you guys to be thinking of this as yourself, like right now, if you feel like I'm not getting any growth, I'm not shifting, I'm not hitting the momentum that I need, maybe it's because you're in this winter season and God is saying, I need you to look at this pruning. So we're going to do some pruning, right? So as I went out and I pruned the trees, one of the things too it talks about is it wasn't just to prune the dead branches. It was also to prune the branches that weren't bringing any value, that were not bringing anything beneficial to the tree. Examples would be, and this is all stuff I learned. I had no idea on any of this, but the branches that stick straight up or straight down. Now I'm thinking, no, but these branches are alive. I want to leave them there. There's no value to them. It actually ends up hurting the tree by leaving them. And so I had to go in and I had to trim all these back. Now, my trees, I'm hoping I didn't get a little zealous and trim too much. I guess we'll find out this summer. But I did go in and I really had to trim the trees back. I really had to cut off a lot of things that were not bringing value to the tree. And what I'm excited about is now what will the summer bring for these trees? So here's the part with this story, you guys, is when you begin to think of this, I wanted to avoid going and trimming those trees. One, because it was going to take some work and I got all scraped up. And I wish my husband would have been out there recording me because I did some legit tree climbing. I don't know about you guys, but I have not climbed a tree since I was a kid. And I was way high up climbing in those trees. And it was actually a lot of fun. But I knew the value of it. I knew that the work I was putting into it was worth it. Now I'm still taking a leap on it. I don't know how well it's worth the trimming, right? Because I want the fruit. I want the growth that needs to come from me being intentional and trimming it. So when we dig into the things that you are avoiding, you have an opportunity to experience massive growth. You have an opportunity to begin to bear fruit like you never imagined before, but it takes being intentional with trimming things back. It takes digging deep. It takes going in and getting rid of those things that maybe you think, oh, I don't think it's that, but maybe it's not as beneficial, right? So let's look at a few things. These are some ones that sort of come naturally to me that I have had to learn to shift and not avoid. What about avoiding conversations? How many of you guys avoid conversations? Now, I'm one of those that I grew up, and lots of my mom, and she's the most spectacular person in the world. But we grew up with this idea when my mom was upset, by golly, my dad knew it. Now, he did not know why she was upset, but he knew she was upset. It might be for a few weeks. She might not share. So I took that, and now she's definitely worked on it as well. We both are working on but I then did the same thing into my marriage. I did not want to talk about it. I avoided the conversation. I didn't want to have to address the emotions I was feeling. I didn't want to have to talk it through. So what did I do? I just refused to talk about it. And here's what happened. Is because I avoided the emotions that were stirring up in me and I didn't have the conversations with him, I began to form resentment. Are any of you guys at that point where you have relationships where you're like, why do I have so much resentment towards this person? Maybe it's because you avoided the conversations. Maybe it's because you didn't want to dig deep into the emotions that you were feeling in it. And so what you did is you said, I'm just going to avoid it. But naturally, what happens is it doesn't go away by avoiding it, right? It's still there. Sorry, you guys, to burst your bubble. It's still there. Like it didn't go anywhere because you didn't deal with it. All you did was avoid it. So then this resentment begins to build up and you begin to get super angry. And then you're like, why am I so angry with them? Because you never address it in the first place. Another thing that could happen is we often procrastinate. Why? Because we are avoiding failure. We're avoiding the fear of the unknown. Instead of going, okay, let me walk through, why am I fearful of this? Why am I afraid of failure? Why this? Why that? We just avoid and we put things off. How many of you guys put off sending out that message? I'm there. How many of you guys avoid the follow-up because you don't know what might they say? What's their response back? Funny story. I was messaging people and I'm just building connections with people, right? So I messaged a gal and she sent back a sort of funny message. saying, yeah, it's a not a no time, but I'm working on my Lenten commitments. And I had no idea what it meant. Now, I could have been like, what does she mean by the no time? Like she doesn't like is she trying to say, because the conversation started with just, hey, what are you working on in life? I'm just trying to be intentional and connect with people. What are you working on in life? And so she sends this response back, and it was a little funny. And I was like, oh, that's unique. Okay. Now I could have avoided it because I didn't want to maybe deal with the response. I didn't want to know what she was actually trying to say. Maybe she was trying to be a little snarky. I messaged her back and I said, hey, I'm not sure exactly what you mean by this, but I'll keep cheering you on. She said, oh my goodness, I just had surgery yesterday. And I messaged back and I think I must have not been clearly thinking. There was nothing more to it. But I could have let my fear of what might she be thinking, my fear of rejection, stop me from responding back. How many things in life are you avoiding because you're not willing to address the deeper emotions that are holding you back? When you guys begin to see the power of digging deeper into your emotions and what you're putting off, what you're avoiding, you will begin to have massive, huge breakthroughs in all areas of your life. What about grief? How many of you guys avoid grief? You don't want to dig deep into that emotion, right? And it's hard and it hurts and it's scary. But because when we avoid grief, oftentimes what happens is you begin to form a level of numbness. You begin to just put more and more, not, nope, I don't need to, I don't want to feel that. I don't want to feel that. I don't want to feel it. And we just put more numbness on it. And then we begin to think, no, I think I'm fine. I don't really feel anything. It's okay to walk through these emotions. One of the things, so we do a leadership retreat. We're preparing for our second one. We did our first one back in October and we had 13 people come. It was powerful. And our next one's in April here in South Dakota. And as we're gearing up for it, like the two gals and I were really just digging deep into, okay, what are we helping people with? One of the biggest things that we work on, you guys, in those 3 days is emotions. Because what happens is we learn so many unhealthy ways to handle it. And it so greatly impacts the rest of your life and everything that you do. And then you go, I don't understand why I'm so frustrated in life. It's because we're not digging deep. We're not examining the emotions in a healthy way. It is such a huge part of how we react, how we respond to things. And this is such a foundational part to move forward. What are you avoiding? When you avoid the truth in it, when you begin to just say, I don't want to deal with it, I just want to bury it, you begin to wonder and question who you even are. You begin to question your identity. And you get so confused because you've been stuffing everything and you're not dealing with the core issues, right? So, one of the big things that happens is you end up having emotional, you can look at it this way. I look at it, for me, I had emotional outbursts. I don't know about any of you guys, but man, I was the mom that at the drop of a hat, I would just go from everything's fine to my kid just spilled the milk in the car. And I would say I would go past a 10. And I'd be so frustrated and I'd be so angry. And the day's blown. The day's blown. Now you might think and say, Alesha, that is not you. Now, I will honestly say it isn't me anymore. Every once in a while, I still have that, but it isn't where I'm at now because I've worked on my emotions, because I've dug deep and I've addressed it. So if you have emotional outbursts, and your emotional outburst might not be like mine, where I would just explode and get so angry and, oh my goodness, the end of the world over spilled milk. Maybe what you do is you go, I am going to my room and I don't want to see any of you. I don't want to talk to you and I'm not coming out of my room. Maybe you're the one that just avoids it to every and now I'm not going to say anything to you. I'm not going to talk to you at all. That might be how you deal with it, but I will tell you all of these different ways are not healthy ways to deal with it, and it means that you are avoiding something deeper. So when what you can do is when you look at those situations, you need to then begin to go start questioning and digging deeper. What just triggered you? What made you go? And that's what it's been really fun for my husband and I. I say it's fun. He might not say it's fun. But I have been learning to dig deeper that when I get upset, and instead of going from a 1 to a 10, I maybe will go from a 1 to a 3 or a 4. And very quickly, I go, whoa, hold on. Something just, what triggered me there? And then I can address it and I can talk it through and be aware of it way quicker. Now, it's not super easy yet. I'm still working through it, but I will tell you, you begin to identify it, you begin to work through it in such a powerful way, and it begins to shift your life. This is the power of addressing your emotions and not avoiding. If you're tired of being super on edge all the time, literally feeling like you're a volcano about to erupt at any moment, I want you to be aware of the fact that some of it is you are not dealing with your emotions. You are not dealing to the core of what is really going on. How's this landing with everybody? Is anybody feeling the connection? Put it in the chats. I know some of you guys, is this landing with you guys? Because man, I wish I would have had somebody tell me this a few years ago. I probably would have worked through it a lot faster. But I will tell you, it's powerful, you guys. So when you begin to really start becoming aware of this, and I talk about this all the time, in order to know your purpose, in order to know what God's created you to do in your life, you have to know your identity. You have to know who you are. You have to know the value that you bring, right? In order to do that, you have to dig deep. You have to begin to become aware of these things that are holding you back. And that's one of the first like major key steps, you guys, is awareness. Most of us are not living in any kind of level of awareness. We are just floating through life, just taking everything at it as it comes and just, oh yeah, you know what? Alesha's just that explosive mom that she just gets angry for whatever. That's just who she is. No, it's not. It is not true at all. Oh, you know what? Alesha's one that she just doesn't like to address things and she avoids things. And that's just, you know what? Actually, she likes to just go and hang out and need her alone time. Is that a healthy way to do it? No. Now, there are times that you need to step away. So please don't hear it. There are times that there's ways to handle things, right? But you learn that as you grow and as you are beginning to grow in this intention of going, what is holding me back? What is stopping me from moving forward? And this, you have to start here, you guys. You have to start digging. You have to start addressing the core things, and it's going to be uncomfortable. But what ends up happening is as you do it, there's shifts that are going to begin to occur in your life. And let me give you hope as you dig into this. You get to step into your true purpose and calling. You get to step out in boldness like you never knew was possible because you are digging deeper into those things that have been holding you back. If I am the explosive mom that's just always angry and frustrated and just my kids are not going to want to have their friends come over. My kids are not going to want me to be around. Now, here's the cool thing is because I've worked on it, man, we have kids coming and going all the time at my house, and it's so much fun. And I get to pour into these kids. I get to love on these kids. I get to just pour life into them, right? And that's part of my purpose is helping people to see that they have purpose. And so I get to have these teens come into my home and I get to just love on them. Now, if I did not work and dig now, don't get me wrong, I was not always like losing my cool. That I don't mean it like that, but there were a lot of times I was. But now I get to step into even more my purpose because I've learned how to control it. I've learned how to address it. So let I want you guys to be thinking about this as we talk about this, or as I share a little bit more. In the back of your mind, I want you to think of, if I continue to live a life of avoidance, especially with my emotions, what is it holding me back from? What is it keeping me from moving into? An example would be, if your heart is to be a leader of any kind, right? Like you want to step in and you want to be a leader of a team here at Trinot, or you want to be a leader at your full-time job, or you want to be a leader with your family. If you are not working in the how to process things well and in a healthy way and stop avoiding, you're not going to be an effective leader. You will not be able to step into the true full potential that you have if all you want to do is suppress things. And here's how: high leaders don't react, they respond. They don't suppress, they process. They don't blame, they own. In order to be an effective leader in any area of your life, and I will tell you one of the things, so this leadership retreat that I have at my place, we call it a leadership retreat. And some people are like, but I'm not a leader. And I say, whoa, every single one of us is a leader. We all have different levels of leadership, but every single one of us is meant to be a leader, be it in your home, be it with your family, be it at church, be it at just your soccer team or whatever. Every single one of us is meant to be a leader. In order to be a healthy, effective leader, we have to work through this stuff. We have to dig deep. Let me share some scriptures because you guys know how I love to bring God into this, because how can we know how to truly process any of this if we don't have the creator of the universe in the big picture, right? Like he's the one that, when you think about, in order to be healthy and whole and to be able to process emotions, the most powerful way to do that is to invite him into it. Because your identity and your purpose comes from him. And so you can keep seeking it in all these different areas, but the true fulfillment is going to come when you're walking it out with him and you understand that you are his masterpiece, that you were loved before the beginning of time. He knew you and he loved you, right? Let's see, Tanya, react, they respond. Let's see. So high leaders don't react, they respond. They don't suppress, they process. So it's not, you guys, be aware when you begin to dig into your emotions, it's not that your emotions will not go away. Your emotions will still, it's how long do you choose to stay in different emotions? How long do you choose to stay in the anger and the resentment? Because you're not willing to address the core issues of what's going on in you. How long do you choose to stay in them instead of processing them? That's the key difference, right? Is you learn to process what you're going through. You learn to expose it in a healthy way, not oh my goodness, you failed again and all. No, and I have stuff I'll hit on that in a second of it's so powerful, but you learn to process it and you own it. I would oftentimes, oh man, you guys, I am so grateful for my husband. Oh gosh. And I love being able to say that now, because a few years ago, I wouldn't have been able to say that because it was just, I was not in a healthy spot. So we had a pretty toxic marriage. And now we're actually next month or next week, it'll be 17 years that we've been married and 20 years that we've been together. But I would oftentimes tell him in discussions, in arguments, that I had every right to be upset at him. I had every right to be angry with him because he was a jerk. And I made sure to point it out. Oh, man. And in that, I realized it wasn't him. It was me. I had to work on me. But I wanted to put all the blame on him. I wanted to blame him for my responses. And oftentimes, like those areas in our marriage that were really a huge struggle, it wasn't because of what he was doing. It's because I had insecurities in me. I had this idea that I'm not good enough. And so I had to prove to him that I am good enough for him to love me. And then we get in an argument because, well, he said this or that, and I would just go off and then it would go back to, I just don't feel good enough. And then I would just want to avoid it. Oh, and by the way, then a few hours later, my kids would spill the milk and then I would get upset. Do you guys see how this plays out? But if I go back to the beginning and instead of it being, oh, Brad, you said this to me, I have every right to be with you. No. What triggered in me to get me so upset? What part of me do I need to work on that I need to get back in align with what God says about me? What part of me is God saying, Alesha, it's okay. I got you. You are loved. Now let's work through it. So what I've done is I went from the exploding mom and the disgruntled wife that wanted to blame everything on her spouse to God, what do you need to change in me? I will tell you, here's what's so cool. My husband and I would say we are truly at one of the best spots that we've ever been in. Now, would I say my husband's maybe changed a lot? There in some areas, yes. But that's not the point. The point is, I've changed me. And now I recognize all the amazing things he does. I was so focused on me and burying things that I then would lash out on him. And then I would focus on all of the negative in him. It goes back to when we first talked about when you avoid conversation, the resentment comes up. So, what we're doing here, you guys, is you are beginning to recognize that when you get to that 10, can you identify it at 1 or 2 before you get to a 10? So let me read you a couple verses that have just been so powerful. Psalms 139:23. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there is any offensive way in me and lead me in the way everlasting. You guys, God is saying, let me come in and help work this out. We can do it somewhat on our own. It's not going to be great. We can try. But the most powerful thing is when we say, God, come in and help me do it. Can you come in? And he sees all of it. We try to hide from him and say, God, you don't really see that part of me. I see all of it. We just try to say, no, you don't. No, you don't. He does. So invite him in and say, God, help me. Help me to get rid of these anxious thoughts. Help me to address these emotions that I've been burying for so long that I don't even know how I feel anymore. Help me to work through this. And then what we do, you guys, is then it says, James, let's go to James 1, 2 through, I might go through 4. Nope, actually, I'm going to actually go, I'm going to actually go through verse 5. Consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials of many kinds. Now think about this, you guys. This is part of we like to avoid. And he's saying, no, I want you to consider it pure joy because I'm going to work through you. It goes back to the tree pruning, right? Because then we get to bear more fruit. The more we say, God, come in and work through me. And that's what I love with the trials and everything we go through, you guys, because you know that the testing of your faith develops perseverance, must finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. If any of you lacks wisdom, he should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to him. So first off, as you begin to go back, I have all these hurts and all these pains that have occurred in my life, and all these things in my life. I want you to shift your perspective and say, I consider it all pure joy. Oh, you guys, I know that can be a hard one, but Alesha, you don't know my story. But Alesha, you don't know what I went through. This is coming from, was it, let's see, so James wrote this, but also Paul writes some of these things too about considering all joy and all. These men went through horrible stuff. Most of them were killed. Most of them were imprisoned. Most of them went through horrific things. And yet they say, consider it pure joy. So as you begin to go, okay, I need to be aware of my emotions. I need to dig through. I can't avoid. Now I'm sharing with you, why do we need to do that? Because in it, you get to develop more perseverance. You get to become the person that is mature and complete, not lacking in anything, because you've been willing to do what's difficult. What you will begin to see is as you become aware of this and as you dig deeper into this, you'll begin to see how many people's lives are stuck because they're not doing this, because they're not doing the hard. It's shifting perspective and no longer looking at things and say, God, why did you? Versus, God, I consider it pure joy. Now dig it deep in me and let's go through these emotions. Let's walk through it. Some of the most powerful breakthroughs I know I keep bringing up this leadership retreat, it's just because it's like heavy on my mind because we're working on it so much. But we put our attendees in some tough positions, both emotionally, physically, and all that, intentionally, because we wanted to push them, because so many of us, we avoid it. And sometimes we have to go through things to bring it to light. And so it can no longer be avoided. And to watch those massive breakthroughs go through and happen in their lives, and to see where they're at even these months later, because they were willing to dig deep into their emotions and no longer avoid. So when we do that, when we dig deep, when we allow the healing to come in, when we allow ourselves to process things, not to avoid things, what it does is it allows us to step into Ephesians 6:7, where it says to serve wholeheartedly, as if you were serving the Lord, not men. You guys, God asks us to do all things wholeheartedly. If you're looking for your purpose in life, you have to be willing to have that healing occur, to no longer avoid, so you can step in and serve him wholeheartedly. That's where your true purpose begins to come to play. Because you've dealt with the yuck, you've dealt with the hurt, you've dealt with the pain. And it doesn't mean, like, when you deal with it, it doesn't just mean, oh, boom, done, I can move on. It still might come up. I feel like sometimes it's like an onion where God says, okay, now I'm ready to peel back the next layer. Okay, we dealt with that emotion. Let me peel back the next one. Because what you've done is you've leaned into him and you've given it and you say, okay, God, and now God's, you're ready for the next layer. But as you begin, like, he's not going to take you from that top layer to the center of the onion and go, boom, done. Sometimes it maybe feels like it, but he doesn't want, like, he wants to do it a little bit of time as you mature and as you dig into it. So make sure that you are digging in, that when anger comes up, when frustration comes up, when joy comes up, when sadness comes up, take a pause and begin to identify it. One of the things that I do with my coaching is I tell people that it's this powerful exercise, and I would encourage you guys to do this, is to 10x your emotions. And you're saying, Alesha, what does that mean? So what you do is you find a safe spot and you take, and you can even identify what are a couple key emotions that you have really struggled with. Now, some of you, it might be joy. Some of you have not felt a depth of joy and happiness for so long, you don't even know what it feels like. So what I want you to do is I want you to actually take time, even if it's 5 minutes, and I want you to sit in that emotion. And it's not, and here's the powerful thing is when you do this, it's recognizing that our emotions don't have to control us, that we can actually learn to control our emotions. Because that's what happens is oftentimes we bury them or we avoid them because we think that if I let it loose, it will take over. And so what you're doing is you're actually teaching yourself how to control them. They do not have to control you. I know that our world says that, like just do what you feel in the moment. Holy buckets. If I go with what I feel all the time, ooh, no, it's not going to be good. So you take 5 minutes and just feel that emotion. Now you can use some experiences to bring it to you, but I would encourage you as you dig into it to just feel it. What does it feel to have the joy that comes to the pit of your stomach and it just explodes out and you just feel it? What about anger? What about sadness? What about sorrow? What are those things that you want to avoid? Because when you begin to dig into those emotions that you are avoiding the most, could have some of the most, your biggest breakthroughs. So even if you take a couple emotions a week and you just sit in them. Now, if it's like anger or whatever, and this is where, if you're at home and you're doing this, tell anybody else that's at home with you what you're doing. Because all of a sudden you might be in the bathroom and all of a sudden you start screaming and you're so angry and they're like, what is going on in there? Like for me, when I text my anger emotions, I usually go outside and I throw things and I just yell and I scream and I just let it out. And I share this with you guys because truly, when I do that, when I address these emotions, that they don't have to be tied to any kind of event that comes up, but it's this release that begins to occur. And I begin to understand that I don't have to let that what fear maybe looks like or intense sadness come in and take over. And so then I just avoid it. Now I know I can control it and I can process it. So it's such a powerful exercise. So I really encourage you guys to do that, is identify some of the key emotions that you have been bearing that you do not want to feel and start working on those and just be in them. Okay, so here's what I want to wrap up with you guys in a Bible study that I'm doing. And it's so good. And I think this just hits home. And this is why I love, there's never a coincidence, you guys. When you begin to say, oh God, there's just so many signs. What are you doing? I see, oh God, thank you for all these signs everywhere. God's saying, there's no coincidence. Like I line everything up. Everything's intentional, right? And so as I was reading this yesterday, it's just so powerful. Okay. The commentator in your head. You are never truly alone. From the moment you wake up to the moment you sleep, there is a running commentary in your mind. It judges your words, elevates your performance, and replays your history. We often mistake the inner voice for our conscience or even the voice of God keeping us humble. But in spiritual warfare, accuracy is everything. Scripture identifies a specific spiritual force dedicated to this commentary. In Revelations 12:10, the enemy is not called the tempter or the destroyer, but the accuser of our brothers and sisters, who accuses them before our God day and night. Now, this is a legal term. The enemy acts as a prosecutor. He's constantly building a case against your worth. To survive this trial, you must learn to distinguish between the prosecutor, which is shame, or the physician, which is conviction. And this is what's so powerful, you guys, because again, here's the thing, is as you begin to dig into your emotions and as you begin to address what you've been avoiding, you're going to have thoughts come to your mind of, I just fail. I'm never going to do this right. I'm always broken. You know what? I know Alesha said this, but I can't change. Nothing's ever going to change. This is just who I am. And this is where, when these thoughts come in, I want you to think of what I'm reading here. The anatomy of shame. Shame is not just an emotion, it's a spiritual weapon designed to attack your identity. When you experience shame, the focus is entirely inward. It is a crushing weight that collapses your chest and makes you want to disappear. Shame does not say, you made a mistake. It says, you are the mistake. The danger of shame is that it is vague and finalizing. It uses words like always and never. You will always be like this. You never get it right. How many of you guys have these thoughts come into your head? I know I used to all the time. Because the diagnosis is terminal, that you are flawed at your core. The only logical response is to hide or avoid. You cannot, that is why shame is the enemy of repentance. You cannot run to God for help if you believe God is disgusted by you. Shame drives you into darkness, which is exactly where the enemy wants you. The anatomy of conviction. Conviction, on the other hand, is the surgical work of the Holy Spirit. It attacks the sin specifically to save the patient. Conviction is painful, but it is a clean pain. It is sharp, specific, and actionable. It does not crush you, it pricks your heart. The message, the word you spoke was unkind. It damaged trust. Go and repair it. Notice the difference? Conviction is hope filled. It assumes that you are capable of change. It assumes that you are a child of God who's currently acting out of character, and it invites you to return to your true self. As Paul writes in 2 Corinthians 7:10, godly sorrow brings repentance that leads to salvation and leaves no regret, but worldly sorrow brings death. Shame or worldly sorrow leads to death because it traps you in the past. Conviction or godly sorrow leads to life because it propels you into a better future. The no condemnation zone. The ultimate defense against the accuser is not positive thinking. It is legal precedence. Therefore, there is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus, Romans 8:1. In a court of law, condemnation is the final sentence. It means the trial is over, the verdict is guilty, and the punishment is set. Paul is saying that for a believer, the sentencing phase is already finished. Jesus took the sentence. This means that when you hear a voice in your head that sounds like a final verdict, you are hopeless, you are finished, it's a lie. It is legally impossible for God to condemn you because he has already condemned sin in the flesh of Christ. So here are some practical exercises. The voice check. Next time you hear inner criticism, put it through the voice check. Is it specific? God points to a specific action and the enemy attacks your whole being. You guys, we avoid our emotions because we've allowed Satan to come in and say, you are not worth it. You are never going to be good enough. You've always made mistakes. You are the problem. When you begin to hear those thoughts, that is not from the Lord. Because what does he actually say? He says, you are his masterpiece. They do not match, do they? So recognize that, you guys, that God is going to give you specifics. The action, the enemy will attack your whole being. Is it actionable? God gives you a step to take, but the enemy will paralyze you. Is there hope? God offers restoration. The enemy offers despair. If it fails this test, reject it. Say it out loud. That is the voice of the accuser, and I'm not listening. You have spent time in the courtroom of your own mind, listening to a prosecutor who hates you. It is time to walk out. God is not looking for a groveling prisoner. He is looking for a son or daughter who is quick to admit their fault, quick to receive grace, and quick to get back to the family business. The next time you fail, and you will, do not freeze. Do not hide. Let the conviction sting you. Let it turn you. And then let the grace of God wash you. You are not defined by the accusations thrown at you. You are defined by the advocate who stands beside you. Everything that as you begin to dig through your emotions and you choose to live with intention and not avoid the things that you have buried for so long, the things that have hurt you, the thoughts that you have let just circulate in your mind. As you do that, as you begin to recognize that, You need to run it through what God says about you. So the where I got it from, you guys, is it's an app called Dumo or something like that. Let me type it in the chat. And it's just really good. I'm only like 4 days into it, but I'm like, this is like a great app. I did pay for it. It was like $20 or whatever, but let me put it in the chat. But I will tell you guys, like, it is when we begin to really shift our perspective, when we begin to live a life of awareness of what's holding us back, this is where the breakthroughs begin. This is where God begins to move. If you are still saying, Alesha, I don't know what my purpose is, I don't know what God's called me to do, this is where you start. You start digging and you start saying, God, reveal to me, use me so I can live wholeheartedly for you. But you do not live in avoidance any longer. You do not live in this with fear and anxiety, but you begin to address where is it coming. So ask yourself the questions when things pop up. Go 5, 6, 7 layers deep. Why did I feel that way? What caused that? Well, why did I respond that way? What happened there? And keep digging. It will change your life and it will change every life around you. And that's the awesome thing, you guys, is we begin to really work on us. It's not a me, it's a God, help heal me so I can go help others. That's what's really cool, is the shift that begins to occur. God, thank you for today. Thank you for what you're doing in each one of our hearts. God, I just ask that you reveal to us more and more, God, of where are those areas in our life that we've avoided because we've been hurt, because we have gone through and experienced grief, because we've been told that we're not good enough or that we don't deserve it, or whatever those lies that go around in our head. God, I ask that you really, just like a study talked about, is that you take that surgical knife and you reveal the deepest parts of who we are, and how do we let it go? How do we trust you in the process? God, I know that that's where the freedom comes. That is where we get to truly live a life that's fulfilled, because we are allowing you to dig deep in there and we're letting things go. We're living a life of awareness, no longer hiding and avoiding, but we're hitting it straight on. And we understand the power of living in the kind of discomfort that we have avoided for so many years. God, I just ask that you give everybody wisdom. God, I know that so many are hurting and going through so much right now. God, I just ask that you flood their hearts with peace, the peace that passes all understanding that you talk about over and over in your word. God, even I think of how in the Bible, it's 365 times specifically you say, do not be afraid. God, that is every time for every day of the year. How powerful is that, God? You are saying, do not be afraid on so many levels. And may we hear it, may we listen to it, may we walk it out. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, you guys, love you all. Next week, we're going to look at the identity drift. So get ready. We're going to dig into your identity and how it shapes your results. Love you guys. Thank you all so much for being on here today. I appreciate every one of you so much. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you all later.